All right, hello everyone, and welcome to the Space Wolf Datasheet tier list. Me and Jack are going to be heading this one up today. We've gotten some games in finally, so
yes.
we have a little bit more of an opinion now to form.
Yeah, it's going to be super interesting. I mean, I'm here to support you on your Marine journey. This is the first Marine army you've ever played. I'm becoming a wolf. Now we are on YouTube, guys. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, check it out. Be more than happy to tell me how wrong I am in the comments or how right Jack is about everything all the time. No. People love to tell me that I'm wrong. Dude, that's their favorite thing.
Okay, this is what I've discovered on my journey so far is people do love to tell me what I'm wrong about.
Oh yeah.
So they love that.
Yeah, and they could be correct. They could be wrong. It doesn't matter.
I will say I do harvest the comments that I find interesting and that I do try them.
Oh, that's super dangerous.
I do try them. Sometimes they're still wrong though.
Dude, I mean, that is content farming in the extreme. Comment. Michael might try your thing out.
Look, I discovered the Wolf Priest Predator combo from a YouTube comment.
And not me telling it to you in the review.
You're making stuff up.
I was like, hey, what about Predator Annihilator? You get 6 shots. And Mike was like, it's probably not good. I'm like, listen to
I hadn't read that Datasheet.
The Dank Knight XXX telling me that I should take a Predator than Iron Priest.
I hadn't read that Datasheet yet. Okay. You know?
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
The Army Painter is my favorite hobby company in the entire world. My desk is literally full of Army Painter products, and it takes me from being an average painter to putting above tabletop standard models out into the tournament scene. Not only that, but the Army Painter has sponsored more competitive play than any other hobby company in the industry. They allow us to keep doing the things that we do. If you enjoy the Army Painter as much as I do, head over to thearmypainter.com where you can use the discount code ARTOWAR5 to get a discount on your next order.
So we're going to start with the characters, and then we're going to kind of go on from there. We're going to start with the man himself, Mr. Grimnar. I like this guy quite a bit. Brand new model. Gorgeous.
Yeah, beautiful model.
S tier model by itself, right?
For sure.
So picked up the Vectora now, which for any combat army is always like quite a big deal. He's on quite a large base too.
It's technically called Lord of Deceit. It is the aura that makes any opposing strats cost an additional CP. And the game is just not built to handle that. It wasn't built to handle it when they introduced Lord of Deceit, and it still isn't. Basically what this looks like is if your opponent has 3 CP, they get 1 strat. Before they get 3, now they get 1, right? And that is massive.
It's a huge deal.
And, you can turn off interrupt on opposing armies, which is huge. You can make your opponent, if they have 4 CP, you can make them decide between, all of their different options. They originally would have had like 3 strats, right? 2 1 CP strats, then an interrupt. And now they're going to have a strat or an interrupt, and that's like it. It's brutal if your opponent has to get close to you.
Yeah, this is most relevant for combat armies, which Space Wolves notably are, right? So having the advantage of a Vectora into a melee mirror is something that is like a big premium, right? So say you're playing into, like my favorite orcs, right? Going into Warhorde and being like, you don't get to interrupt and fight on death. It's just like, okay, now I just win the fight phase.
Yep.
Right.
If you fight on death, you get 0 other strats and you burn 3 CP. You essentially get like 1 strat under the effect before it becomes just completely untenable.
So I think that alone makes this guy really quite valuable. He also has a great price point at 110.
Yes.
Also hits pretty decently. It's only 6 attacks at 3 damage or the 10 sweeps at strength 6, but a sweep profile at strength 6 is actually quite nice.
He hits okay. He hits
good enough. I'm not upset about it, basically, especially since the 3 damage access in this army is a little weak other than the Wulfen. So I'm pretty happy with that. Yep. So I think this guy goes in S tier for me.
Yep. And he drops his unit in turn 1, or he drops a unit.
Yes, drops a Space Wolves specific unit in turn 1, so you can't like sneak any tanks in super early. But
yeah, this army is very self-referential.
Very self-referential.
It's very like this benefits Space Wolves, or this character can only lead Headtakers, or blah blah blah. So there's a little bit of that. Now, he is worse than he was before, I think, because calling full rerolls to hit for an entire army
was amazing.
Was crazy.
Yeah, that was really good.
But here's the deal, and also reroll charges as well. Here's the deal. He is a unit, unto himself. He is not what he was in the past, which means as a unit, as he is now at 110, he's very good.
Yep.
Is he worse than he was before? Sure, but that actually has no relevance over how we're rating him.
Yeah, I think it's just a new job, right?
Yeah.
Vectora, beat stick. I love a good beat stick. Big fan.
Yeah, he was kind of dumb in the past where he would just like drop in solo and clap his hands and give your army a buff.
Yeah.
And now he actually wades into the thick of things. So that is pretty cool.
Yes, I am very excited to actually get this model on the table. Next up, we have Ragnar. Ragnar, I actually had a pretty high opinion on initial read of this guy, but after getting some games in, I've really lowered how I feel about Ragnar.
Really?
Yeah, so not getting the extra strength has been quite a big deal.
Yeah, because he used to go, to strength 8 on the charge?
Yeah.
And now he's strength 6.
So strength 6 all the time. And then really his best value is with Headtakers. Blood Claws he's like okay with, right? But the giving Headtakers advance and charge is quite good. However, we're competing with a lot of very valuable characters that all want to go with Headtakers.
Yeah, now you have the Wolf Priest who buffs them to the 9s.
Even like the Battle Leader with a good enhancement is like actually quite competitive. Like the Gladius Task Force Honor Vehement Battle Leader.
He's kind of just better.
It's just a better Ragnar.
You still have advanced and charge access if necessary, which he can make. He can't make it free. He's not a captain. But you still have advanced and charge access, and then he has similar damage output, and then he gives them reroll 1s and sustained. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. So you go to strength 7, and then if you use the Lance strat, which spoiler alert, you will when this unit connects, right? It's 9 attacks at strength 7, AP 3 for 2 with sustain, which notably is very close to Ragnar.
Yeah.
Right.
And then he gives better buffs to the unit.
And it's cheaper than Ragnar.
That is true. That is true. He's not a bad unit. He's not a bad unit by any stretch.
I think he's just fine, right? I think to me, Ragnar, unfortunately, is just very middle of the pack now.
Yeah, so Ragnar before was definitely helped out by the fact that there just kind of weren't better options to put in, Blade Guard or Assault Intercessors or something.
But all the new characters are great.
All the new characters are great.
Really good.
They go in Headtakers, which is like the exact role that Ragnar was filling in the past.
Yep.
And so he now has a much more competitive field to play into rather than before where it's like, well, you take Ragnar, captain. Ragnar was just like better than signed captain. Now he actually has to compete with battle leaders and wolf priests, which is, now he has to work for it.
Yeah, I have a use for him. I just think at 90 points, we're just paying a little too much since the other characters are all sitting around 70 or 80 with enhancements. So it's just not there for me.
Yeah. I mean, he still bangs absurdly hard.
Yep, still hits, but I just have other options.
Yep.
Next up, we have Ulrik the Slayer. I have a pretty low opinion of this guy.
It's a shame. He was my favorite model in the index, but I made a promise to Quentin I wouldn't go off on a big tangent about it. So here we are.
That's true. So Ulrik the Slayer now gives the Slayer Oath, which is, he always gives +1 to hit to his unit all the time. But the Slayer Oath is a character, vehicle, or monster you pick at the start of the game. And then your unit gets +1 to wound against that as well. My problem is that the unit, your opponent can just kind of keep away with it, right? And you also don't pick a new one.
If your army kills it.
Yeah, if your army kills it, right? So then you just kind of lose the value, and this guy just kind of ends up being a +1 to hit beat stick. Now, he does have the added benefit that if your unit kills the Slayer Oath, you do get to complete the saga for that unit for the rest of the game.
Which only matters if you're running Space Wolf detachments.
Exactly. And the Space Wolf detachments, unfortunately, are not going to end up being that competitive.
No, the Gladius and the Stormlance are both incredible detachments.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot to compete with them.
I think so, too. Ulrik, to me, is probably just going to end up down in C. There was this cute little combo I almost got excited about that I saw with the Headtakers, because Headtakers give devastating wounds when they pick their target. However, it's only to Headtaker models. So his anti-monster, anti-forward vehicle does not get devastating wounds.
Yeah, I mean, I could see a use for him if you happen to pair into an opponent who has one big unit.
Like a Primarch, right?
Like a Primarch or like a 10-man Terminator squad or something that's going to go bully space in the center.
Yeah.
And you can almost always connect this unit if I just have to, bodyguard the center. And then you get dev wounds, +1 to wound and precision on the unit because you pick the same target for both their oaths.
Yeah.
And it's good in that case, but you can take characters that are good in every case instead of Ulrik, who's only good if they have that one big unit that has to go there.
There's just no reason to jump through a bunch of hoops. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Because otherwise they just put whatever unit you pick on the side of the board that they aren't on, and they still get to play the game.
Also, most of the good detachments just have 1 CP +1 to win. So
that's true.
Right.
That's
so you can
true.
just kind of do that whole thing for 1 CP.
Stormlance doesn't, because it only applies to mounted, I believe.
Yeah, it is. You don't get into Stormlance. But
Gladius is...
but the Saga of the Bold, you can get lethals, right? Which is very similar to +1 to wound and then so on. So he's just fine.
He's okay.
Next up, we have the Wolf Priest.
This guy's crazy.
This guy is great. So
hold on. What if instead of having to pick your target at the start of the game to get +1 to wound,
you just +1 to wound all the time.
You just always had +1 to wound.
+1 to wound.
Yeah.
What I like is it's the best parts of like an apothecary and a chaplain, right? So you res a model, and your unit is +1 to wound all the time. As well as something that's actually quite relevant is that this guy gives Wulfen OC at 12 inches, not 6.
Yeah, and you really like Wulfen.
That's actually like a really big deal. I do think this guy's going to end up in A tier though.
So what's the reason for that?
So my reasoning for that is that as we talk about Headtakers later, I think Headtakers are just fine, right? They're not competing for the S tier stuff. But so the Wolf Priest ends up also being just fine. I find the Wolf Priest is as good as the Headtakers are. And there are lists where my Headtakers, I actually don't even want a Wolf Priest with them. I actually want something else.
The Battle Leader?
The Battle Leader, right?
Yeah. I will say that the Wolf Priest is an absurd buff character. But, another absurd buff character that doesn't make very high on tier lists is the Sanguinary Priest. And it's because, now he's better than the Sanguinary Priest because the Sanguinary Priest has better buffs but can't join anything relevant, period. You can join Devastators. So he's as good as, as you said, as the Headtakers are, and the Headtakers are solid. They're all right, which means he's going to top out at solid.
Yeah, whenever I look at something in S tier, I think I'm looking at something that's going to be in almost every single Space Wolf list. I think the Rune Priest is going to be in almost, but not all of them.
No,
right?
For sure. I will say if Headtakers were S tier, he'd be an S tier.
I would agree.
Yeah,
yep,
but
I 100% agree.
They're not going to be.
They're just not. Yeah. Next up, we have Arjac. He's just fine.
Yeah, it's the same thing as from before. He is a decent duelist. He only has 5 attacks, right? So he's still kind of at AP2. So he's still kind of on that.
I like his concept. My issue with him at the end of the day is that I'm not interested in bringing 2 units of Wolfguard, probably.
Yeah, and if I include 1, you're taking Logan.
I just want 1 and I want Logan.
Yes.
Right? So I think that's my issue with Arjac is that he just isn't competitive enough for me to want to be like, oh yeah, or he's not so good that I'm like, I need 2 Wolfguard Terminator units so I can bring Arjac too. Right? He's just okay.
Yeah, he's just okay. He's stats on a stick. You pay a price for stats, but then you also really want to pay a price for the unit you put him in.
He requires another 170.
Right. And that's not ideal.
That's not ideal.
Like Ragnar's stats on a stick, but then he also gives you advance and charge on his unit or whatever the heck he gives Blood Claws. And that's solid. That's good. And then he's also stats. But just purely being stats, then you have to afford a unit to make those stats relevant. It's like, meh.
It's just meh.
It's just meh.
Sorry, Arjac.
Speaking of meh characters.
Njal
Stormcaller.
Straight to D.
Yeah, he is like the Wolf Priest where he's as good as his unit is, and his unit is bad.
This unit is bad. Unfortunate spoiler alert, guys. Grey Hunters are not good.
They're C3.
Which is cool.
It's cool.
But they do nothing.
Do they have to be taken in 10-mans?
They have to be taken in 10-mans.
That is unfortunate.
They're like 190.
That's just too many points.
Too many points. I like this guy's ability actually a lot. Assault and Auto 6 advance is a very big deal with any army that could have access to advance and charge. The problem is he has no ability to really get a lot of value out of this, right? Because Blood Claws don't have guns. The Grey Hunters guns are bolters.
Yeah, so they're not. Might even sneak a melting gun in there somewhere.
Yeah, right. I actually don't even think they get that.
That's crazy.
I don't even think they get a melting gun. They just get bolters.
That's not ideal.
Yeah,
his spells aren't that potent. They're actually pretty weak.
Yeah, exactly. Now I would like this guy a lot more if so when he shoots somebody, he can afflict them with whatever his debuff is called, and it reduces the range of their guns by 6 inches. However, it is to a minimum of 12.
Yeah, there's also not a lot of
If you could lower a flamer from 12 to 6 and then get around an Overwatch that way, I would be very interested in this. I actually, maybe not a lot of lists, but I would have a reason to want that. But going down to minimum 12,
theoretically, I suppose. At that point, it's completely irrelevant, right? Because it doesn't work that way. But even if it did work that way, they just Overwatch you in the movement phase.
This is also true.
Yes.
There's lots of true things.
Overwatch with it or something and hope that works.
Yeah. So it's just fine. If Grey Hunters were ever good and I wanted an Auto 6 and Assault on my Grey Hunters, he'd be the perfect character for that. But there's just not a home.
Theoretically, right? In Stormlance, him plus a unit of Grey Hunters takes any objective on the board no matter what.
That's true.
But it's also 300 points at that point, and you can do that.
It'd be 250, 260-ish.
How many points is he?
I think he's 70 if I remember correctly.
Okay, so yeah, it'd be 260. So there is a use there because you can drop 31 OC on literally any objective like anywhere.
That's an eighth of your list.
It's an eighth of your list. It's not. It's too much. It's way too much. It's way too much. So his ability on Grey Hunters is just too many points. It's like Grey Hunters, man. Like if I want to go take an objective away, I'm just going to do that with, I don't know, something else. Even intercessors are better at it because they're 80 points.
I'm just going to go kill them, right?
Yeah, that too. Reavers do the same job, but we'll talk about that when we get to Grey Hunters.
Battle Leader. Big fan of Battle Leader. Really quite good. I think exactly in the same spot as the Rune Priest. Takes enhancements really quite well because it has 7 attacks for some crazy reason. And a 2-up fight on death, so really likes any sort of damage enhancement. Leads Headtakers quite well.
Yeah, gives them sustained real ones to hit.
Just good. I think just sits solidly in the A tier next to the Wolf Priest, filling a very similar job, as good as Headtakers are.
You're not going to have a character that is better than Headtakers that leads Headtakers and gives them buffs.
My favorite battle leader is the one in the Saga of the Beast Slayer that leads Wulfen. I like that a lot, actually.
What does he do? Does he just lead Wulfen?
So he gets to lead Wulfen. He gets an extra 2 inches of movement because he becomes a wolf.
Oh yeah, he's a wolf leader.
Yeah, and then he gives like your Thunderhammer unit sustained. And if you've completed your Beast Slayer saga or you're hitting the right target, so you're sustained, lethal, rerolling heroes of 1. You just smite something with that.
Well, 2 attacks apiece, but still.
That's still 3 damage each.
Yeah. But 2 attacks. That's
good.
No, yeah, it's great. It's fun. He is a really good character. He's just a really good infantry character. So is the Wolf Priest.
And 65 points is his current cost.
Are you kidding me?
Super cheap, dude.
I mean, if these guys could lead. All right, here's the problem with Space Marines generally. I'll tell you. Space Marines generally, unless you get it from your supplement, do not have good melee units.
No.
That's just how it goes.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, Blade Guard plus ? I'm not actually convinced Headtakers are better than Blade Guard.
They're notably different.
Yeah. Is not a great place to be for your like best combat unit in the book. Mm-hmm. Now these guys would be really good, say if they had jump packs and could join Sanguinary Guard.
Oh, that'd be nuts.
Right? A premier melee unit in a Space Marines chapter.
Yeah.
Right? Sanguinary Guard or, Deathwing Knights or Inner Circle Companions, right? A unit that actually will mess people up.
I think that's probably the biggest thing we're lacking in the current Space Wolf book is they gave us some okay melee, right?
Yeah.
But not quite good enough.
Not like destroy people. Maybe.
Not destroy people, no. Right? Which may be the biggest flaw. However, I do think that Space Wolves overall are providing a good balanced approach in some ways, which I don't hate or anything. And speaking of balanced approach, actually, the next one is a perfect way to talk about that. The Iron Priest, right?
Yes.
The Iron Priest is actually a great shooting support piece.
Yeah, he's super weird. He's cool. I like what they did with him.
Yeah, I like that this is like a very weird tech marine. The rapid fire is a really big deal on something we talk about like Predators, right? So you take your Predator Annihilator and you get 2, if you're in rapid fire range, which I believe would be 24 for all of this, right? You're going to get 2 Hunter Killer shots, 4 las cannon shots, and then the 2 from the better las cannon.
The Twin Link Strength 14 one, yeah. Yeah, with the Predator Annihilator, so you're rolling out with like 8 shots at 24 inches, and then you're re-rolling damage as well, and the Top Gun is twin linked, and you can re-roll hits with Oath, and that is a very scary single shot of shooting, and they're not that expensive.
Yeah, I like this quite a bit because my earliest discovery so far in Space Wolves is our shooting sucks. It's bad.
I mean, so here's the weird thing about Space Marines. Again, like the combat sucks. Also, the shooting kind of sucks in Space Marines. Space Marines are an army of combos.
Yeah.
And you need to put those combos together in order for your damage to be good. And then your damage is really good.
Yep.
Right? I'm not saying like you can't make a good melee Marine army and you can't make a good shooting Marine army. Those are obviously demonstrably not true. Mm-hmm. And look at the meta right now.
You just have to find the right combination of it all.
Yeah, it's rare you can just take a data sheet and that data sheet in Marines is a premier melee or shooting threat.
Yep.
It's rare. If you do, usually it's because it's coming out of a supplement rather than being in the main codex itself.
That makes sense. I think the Iron Priest, the more I talk about it, is actually going to end up in A tier here because I think it like enables all of our shooting units, right?
Yeah. It's interesting on a Lancer. It's interesting on a Valiant. Valiant has to obviously get very close in order to make it work. But a Lancer has to get 36 and you get a third shot. And a third shot's huge on that thing.
It is a big deal.
Because it's a lot more likely you force through 2 saves as opposed to just the 1. And if you force a 1, you're not killing anything. If you force 2, maybe. Who knows?
Things might be better.
But the Annihilator pumps out, I mean, you literally double its shot count, which is crazy. This dude might as well just be a little annihilator who gets to sit on top of
It's literally it's double predator, which is actually kind of wild, right? Yeah. So great. I'm a big fan of this. Next time I get a Space Wolves game on the channel, I 100% am going to be trying out this combo.
Yeah, that's sick.
Okay, so next up we have Bjorn, the Fell-Handed. Probably my favorite character so far.
For sure.
This dude is so good. Like the CP battery, great. Anytime an army has access to just a free CP at the start of your turn is a big deal because you get the information of, okay, can I auto-complete both of these secondaries? I can front-load all of my abilities. Like
I can discard cards.
Yeah.
A lot more freely than otherwise.
A lot more freely, as well as Bjorn has a pretty decent profile defensively. The -1 to wound, 5-up invul, and 5-up feel no pain.
How many points is he?
He's currently 170.
Okay, so he went down 20 points. His rules changed fundamentally. I think he's worse than he was before, because before he was a Vectora or a Lord.
Vectora and half damage.
But again, you don't compare to where they were before. It's a whole new unit now. And how good is that unit? And the answer, pretty darn good.
It's pretty darn good. Like good flamers, good gun, good Overwatch threat. And funny enough, I've discovered that the Dreadnoughts being so small, oh man, that's so good.
Oh yeah, they're tiny.
So good. You can sneak these little guys all around the board. Super easy to move around. They also move 9 inches now, which is super fast.
They're quite quick, and especially with advanced and charge access in the book somewhere.
Exactly.
They went up from 8 movement to 9 movement. The 8 movement was huge before, but 9 movement is even better. Yeah. And then, in multiple detachments, they can advance to charge.
To me, I think Bjorn is just like straight S tier. I think this guy is going to end up in pretty much close to every Space Wolves list. He's really quite good.
If you have Bjorn and Logan, your CP economy is very good.
Agreed.
Because you're wrecking their economy and you have a good economy, and then that's economy. Yeah. You also might have a captain in there to make free strats, that sort of thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Next up, we have Murderfang. Now, personally, I love Murderfang, but I understand that Murderfang is a little too expensive at the moment.
How many points is he?
He's 170 as well.
And what does he do?
He punches real good.
Real good,
right? And then also has the Fight on Death aura. So is a Fight on Death aura for Wulfen models specifically. So 4-up for himself, and then 4-up for any Wulfen units within 6 inches. The unit keyword there is actually pretty important, because then you can just string one little guy to make sure you're in Murderfang's aura, and then the whole unit will get access to the Fight on Death.
So you take Wulfen Tribal, the army, and you get 4-up Fight on Death on your whole army just for including this guy?
Yeah, so he is like a very specific use. He punches really good. I just think 170 is just too much.
I agree. And he's also OC 0 unless you have another character bodyguarding him, which is kind of big.
Which that actually is a big deal, right? And you can set it up reasonably well if you're like very mindful about it. However, it's annoying to be mindful about it.
Yes.
So,
because like you can just take a unit that you don't have to jump through that hoop for.
I think something that I'm most interested using Murderfang for is actually as a rapid ingress threat, right? He's a sneaky little guy. You can come in, give him advance and charge from something, and then he just will go like obliterate some target if your opponent didn't screen properly, because it's very easy to sneak him in. Like these bases are small, like super, super small. I think unfortunately he's just getting up down in C tier. I think his cost is a little too much.
That's tragic.
It's just too much.
That is tragic. But yes, he is too much. Like a one-use missile has to be priced, assuming that sometimes it does not connect and doesn't do anything.
Exactly.
And especially one that can't even hold an objective by himself is not ideal.
I think 150 would be appropriate, and then I'd be a lot happier.
Yeah, but that 170 it's just too pricey.
It's just too pricey. Next up, we're going to go to Blood Claws. So Blood Claws are another one of our, well, quote unquote new. Just we got a new model for it.
Yeah. And brand new rules. Like it's
brand new rules.
Different.
So they advance in charge now, and then just have a bucket of attacks.
What is it, 4 attacks apiece?
4 attacks apiece.
Yeah, Primaris Crusaders are 5 attacks apiece.
So there's a big bucket, and they natively advance in charge, which is really quite nice. They are battle line. They are OC2. You can run a 120 Blood Claw unit.
They move 7, I think.
They move 7.
Okay.
So they're quite fast. My current problem I have with Blood Claws is that it's difficult to get a good leader for them to make them go crazy. So for instance, like the Crusaders, you can give them the 5-up Feel No Pain guy. You can stick, who's that guy you can stick with them too?
Helbrecht. You can stick Grimaldus. You can stick Tannhauser's Bones. I mean, the real weakness, I think, in Blood Claws is the fact that A, you have to take them in 10-mans.
Have to take them in 10-mans.
At least, or 20-mans.
Yeah.
And B, mass power armor that walks across the board kind of sucks.
It just dies.
It's just not that good.
Now, notably, it is a lot of Space Marines.
Sure.
Like a lot of Space Marines.
Yeah.
But the
big
reason
time.
like the Crusader Horde worked is because you had Feel No Pains on some of them. And like you had Advance and Charge on some of them. Like you had a myriad of buffs you could use, right?
You could technically get Advanced in Charge, but it gave up your 5 of Feel No Pain on that unit, and it was only for Grimaldus' squad.
Oh, I see.
So realistically, it was a marching wall of dudes that as soon as they connected a charge went super far, but otherwise were just like advancing.
Yeah.
They were also just aiming to be tough and durable.
Blood Claws are missing the defensive side of these things.
Yes.
That's the notable thing.
We're also in a meta now of, well, let me just put it this way. Forge Fiends are a bad time for you.
Forge Fiends are about to.
I think World Eaters like legitimately take that army apart because they hit hard enough in melee to lift a 20-man, no issues.
Yep.
And then also Forge Fiends. And then Death Guard also an issue because they make you have a 4-up save and then they kill you.
Mm-hmm. I think these are just in D, unfortunately. I don't have a reason to take them.
I've never looked at the
just
list and been
don't.
like, I really want to put 10 Space Marine models in there with chainstones.
Yeah.
I really want to do that. That's what I want.
Yeah, it's just missing a really good use. Next up, we have the Grey Hunters. Grey Hunters are going to have the exact same problems that we just discussed, except Grey Hunters are even more expensive. So 10 Blood Claws is 135.
Okay, that 10 Blood Claws is 135.
Yeah, it's 135.
Okay, that is cheap as hell.
Yeah, it's cheap, but it's not.
That is cheap as hell.
They don't do anything.
That's really cheap though.
Yeah, it's really cheap.
That's 13.5 points a model.
Yeah, they're cheap.
That's cheap.
I still don't want them.
That's fair, but man, I thought they were at least going to be like 160.
No, they're cheap.
Okay, there's can they realistically be in D tier? They're 135.
Yeah, tell me a list they go in.
Any list that has 135 points left
To do what?
to go.
To be 10 Space Marines standing on the table?
Yeah.
What are they going to trade into? 5 elves?
I mean, they would do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
They would do it very good.
Yeah.
And then your opponent would have to kill them because they don't want them.
Without a character, they're not +1 to wound, right?
I'm
not
relitigating this.
Yeah, like they don't do anything.
I mean, they kind of do that. 135, they're OC2, right?
Yeah.
135, man. 135. 135.
Not that good.
I'm like that dude who keeps saying he can beat Mighty Mouse because he's 265, bro. He's 265.
Every time I look at a list, I'm like, I just don't want them.
Fair enough.
The only list they go in is the 120 Blood Call list.
I mean, that list sucks.
Yeah.
How many points is 20 of them, though? Is it 270?
I believe it is 270.
Okay, how many points is 120? And do you get like real fire support behind that?
No, it's most of your list.
That's sad.
Yeah, it's just unfortunately, yes, I understand 135 is cheap, and that's why I was initially kind of excited about them. And then I put 10 of them on the table, and then they were actually just 10 dudes.
Do they get Power Fist?
No, actually,
Really?
you don't get a Power Fist.
Do they get like rerolls or anything?
No.
What do they get if you put? Okay, I'm reaching. What do you get if you put Ragnar in them?
They get real wins.
Okay.
But now we're quickly into the 220 point range now.
Yeah, but that's like an okay unit now. It's kind of okay. Okay, 10 models is very large, and we'll get clipped.
That is a problem. Every single day. If you could take 5 of these guys, I would be all about that price point.
Dude, 5 of them for like 65
5 of them,
points.
65 points.
Or 70 would go crazy.
Amazing, right? It's the fact that you have to take this in 10 man. That is the whole problem with this unit.
Okay, you know what actually is the problem? If this unit could go in Liberator Assault Group, you would be seeing so many of them.
Oh, well, we all can't be a Blood Angel, Jack.
I'm sorry, that must be rough for you.
Anyway, back to Grey Hunters.
Back to Grey Hunters.
Back to Grey Hunters.
I was just sticker shocked, but like in reverse.
Grey Hunters are 190 points.
That is too much. Now, they have a thing that is super cool and you don't see very often, which is OC3.
No C3.
But who honestly cares?
Now, they do reroll the wounds on objectives, right? Or reroll wound rolls of 1 all the time, which is nice.
That is nice.
I do like that.
That's neato.
The issue is that they are competing with Headtakers, who are cheaper and do more damage.
And a lot more durable.
Right? So anyone that I would want to lead Grey Hunters can lead a Headtaker squad better.
Yes.
And do said job better.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, they have a funky bolt gun, but that does not make me want... I mean, you play Thousand Suns. Reroll ones, reroll full wound rolls against objectives, and you're like, wow, that's pretty good. And then you look at your guns and you're like, that's not the same thing.
For one. The battle leader is like cute on them, right? Because your like bolters get assault, or not assault, sorry. The bolters get sustained. And then like, you kill cultists real good. But that's mostly it. So Grey Hunters just don't have a good job at the moment. If you could take 5 mans, it'd be a lot more interesting. But the lack of 5 mans is just like a big problem here.
Yeah, I mean, you feel that in World Eaters too, where they switched the minimum squad size from 5 to 10.
Yeah,
and the unit just becomes a lot less of a utility piece.
10 Space Marines is hard to move around.
It's tough to move around. It's unwieldy. It still dies fairly easily. And now, World Eaters have -1 damage, and they have characters that absolutely slam and can only join Berserkers.
Yeah.
So you can make it work, but it would have been a lot better there if they were in 5 mans too. And it's the same thing here.
Next up, we have the Wolfguard Headtakers. I have been a big fan of these guys. I initially started on 18. I've walked back from 18.
Really?
Yeah.
Listen, man. Those Blade Guard look like real. They look real good.
Dude, they look awesome at first, and then it wasn't kids. They're like, okay, these are just fine.
Because these guys are just Blade Guard.
I think it is 6 to 12 in a list. I think you're taking 1 all the time. At minimum, you're always taking 1. Whether you take 2 kind of depends on what detachment you're playing, and then the shape of the rest of the list. However, I really like how you can do different jobs with them. For instance, like Ragnar with 6 of them with paired mastercrafted weapons is an excellent blender unit. Shields with a Rune Priest and Resin Guys makes them a very good grindy unit.
Yeah, they're a super good grindy unit at that point.
So I like that part of them. And then don't forget the Hunting Wolves are technically also part of this data sheet. However, it's now 25 points per 3.
Are they OC 0?
Unless you're within 6 inches of a character, right? So...
Or 12 of the Wolf Priest?
No, actually, because Curse of the Wulfen is what gives you the 12-inch aura from the Wolf Priest ability, but the Fenrisian Wolves and the Hunting Wolves do not have Curse of the Wulfen. They have their own ability that says that they don't get the OC, so they don't get the 12-inch from the Wolf Priest.
That's the saddest story ever told.
Very sad, very sad. The issue with Hunting Wolves is their Fenrisian Wolves are just better, but we'll come back to that later. But the Headtakers. So I like Headtakers quite a bit. I think they're going to be a unit of them is going to be in pretty much every single Space Wolf list.
I think the reason why they get dragged. So here's the thing. In my opinion, they're worse Blade Guard, right? Because Blade Guard get the reroll 1s to invulns, which is legitimately very good.
It's very good
reroll 1s to hit, which again, very good. The output is very similar. You can't take paired weapons, but you always get the Storm Shield Mastercrafted weapon. And Wolfguard Headtakers are 5 points per 3 more expensive. The reason why Headtakers are like viable and Blade Guard are probably being slept on a little bit even outside of lag.
Yeah.
Outside of Liberator Assault Group, they're probably being slept on a little. 160 is a very good price for those. So perhaps it's an unfair comparison. But the reason why Headtakers are going to routinely make Space Wolf lists, and I don't think that Blade Guard routinely make most Space Marine lists, is because of the characters that can join the Headtakers.
Yeah, the characters that join the Headtakers, the whole reason to bring these guys, because those characters are sweet.
Yes.
Like they are sweet and they are cheap. They are priced to move, have great abilities, and they make those Headtakers go hard.
Yeah, what's one of the best data sheets just to join Blade Guard straight up without being like a special character or something is probably a Chaplain. And a Chaplain is like 10 points cheaper than a Wolf Priest, and it just does not have the res model ability. Yeah. Right? Would you pay 10 extra points to just heal a model every turn?
Yes.
Yes, you would.
Best enhancement in the game, dude.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's the best enhancement in the game.
Yeah. So, and then the battle leader is also like just a better captain equivalent for buffing the unit. So you end up with a lot better characters that can support the unit. If you just had generic Space Marine characters, Headtakers would be like bad, like actively bad.
Yeah. I think Headtakers I wasn't originally going to put these guys in A tier, but after talking, I think they end up in B tier. I think they're just fine.
They're just okay.
Just fine. I think you're going to run them a lot of the time, but they're just an okay unit.
Yeah.
Next up, we're going to have Wulfen with Thunderhammers for 5 of these guys. It's either 95 or 100 points. It's 3 damage each for 2 attacks, anti-monster, anti-vehicle, 3 up. I actually like these quite a bit.
Oh, anti-monster vehicle 3+, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So they actually can end up hitting quite hard into random vehicles. So you can take 5 man and just like put oaths on something. And then if you're playing Stormlance or Gladius or even Saga of the Bold, you can give them advance and charge and be like, hey, go kill that annoying tank over there. And they usually will.
And sometimes they don't.
Sometimes they don't, but they usually will.
If you buff it up, they often will.
Yeah.
They often will. And I mean, toughness 6 is just such an annoying profile to kill quickly.
T6 move 9 is good.
T6 move 9.
And the 4 up invuln. right? Like notably, you're gonna notice there's like a lot of 4-pin Wolves you can stack in a Space Wolf army. Like a lot of 4-pin Wolves you can stack in a Space Wolf army.
Like I like to compare things to things I like that who is a known quantity to me. And the thing I compare these guys to would be like Exalted 8-Bound now, because they also have anti-monster vehicle 3+. They're also a toughness 6 infantry model, but you get 3 of them for 160, and you get 5 of these guys for like 95-ish points. They're also toughness 6. They have an extra wound. They have a 5-up invuln, not a 4-up invuln. They're damage 2, not damage 3. They have more attacks. Ultimately, I'd say probably Wulfen hit harder, are cheaper, have more bodies.
The only downside is the Curse of the Wolfen here, right?
Yes, that is a big one.
That's why they're so cheap. I like them as a go kill thing unit. They're not like a go flip primary unit. Or if you're playing like a huge push turn and you have like just a bunch of these guys running around also killing stuff, they can be really good at helping on the cleanup.
And if you're in Stormlance or Gladius, something that will have army-wide fallback and charge.
Yeah, that moves 9 inches.
Which is, it's huge. It's huge.
It's really good.
Your opponent, you commit these, and maybe they don't pick up that tank or Vindicator or whatever, right? They leave the Vindicator at like 3 wounds. Well, if they just stay there, let's even pretend they don't even kill it, right? Like tying them up just isn't a thing, right? Your opponent, maybe they whiff and they leave the Vindicator at 6 wounds, and your opponent's willing to risk that they stay in combat again. They're not taken out of the fight. You can just fall back and go. So your opponent has to dedicate real resources to these stupid little speed bumps.
And their 4-up invuln is a T6.
Yep. Annoying. Do they have a Feel No Pain?
No Feel No Pain.
They lost that.
They lost the Feel No
They
Pain.
lost the Feel No
And
Pain.
they do not inherently fight undeath unless they have Murderfang.
Right.
Yeah. But however, they do way more damage time.
If your opponent kills them with the amount of firepower they expected to kill them, whatever. They're a cheap unit.
The other thing is the Death Totem got a big upgrade.
Yes.
I forgot these guys reroll hit rolls of 1 all the time.
That's very efficient.
Which is great.
Yeah, because if you look at I don't know if you've experienced this yet, considering this is your, first time.
First for me.
It's very tempting to look at every unit and say
as if it had oaths.
As if it had oaths.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You need things that operate independent from us.
Yeah,
and they did.
So I like that. So I'm a big fan of Wulfen. To me, I think these guys are actually in S tier because I think there's like an actual 30 Wulfen list out there. Well, even Thunderhammer Wulfen list. Technically, you could run 60 Wulfen.
I don't think you're going to do that.
I don't think you're going to run 60 Wulfen. But like I think a Stormlands list exists that's like 30 Wulfen with Thunderhammers, 18 Thundercav, and you're sitting at like 1,200-ish points.
That's not okay, man.
That's 1,200-ish points, and that's like a lot of dudes.
The thing I like about these guys is they're cheap, and if your opponent puts 4-up invulns can just spike, and if they spike against you, it's not the end of the world. They're cheap. But if they spike for you, it's really, really, really obnoxious for your opponent.
Wulfen are one of the reasons to run Space Wolves, so I think that's one of the reasons I would rate these guys so high. Next up, we have the Wulfen with Frost Weapons. So these guys do not get the 4-up invuln. They are 1 more attack at 5/2/2, but they have sustained in addition. So these are really good skirmishing pieces. However, I think the problem is they are not cheap enough compared to the Wulfen with Thunderhammers. It's a 15-point difference, so they're 85. It's just not.
Yeah, and my main qualification for a skirmish unit, right, is a unit that can run out and clear an objective and take it away.
But the Curse of the Wulfen.
The Curse of the Wulfen means that. So if you kill your opponent, it doesn't matter, right? They can just walk back on and take it, and that's fine. But if they leave a single model alive,
dude at 1,
right? Like if you send in 5 Reavers or something at a target and they kill 4 models out of that Eldar unit, whatever, they take the objective, right? Even if you send in 5 JPI, right? Which is a similar points cost, right? 85 versus 90. If you send in 5 JPI who hit less hard, but they don't clear the unit off the objective, they leave a model or 2 left alive, it doesn't matter. You have 5 OC on the point. Your opponent now has 2. It's fine. You've taken the point. That's the goal. Killing the unit's like killing a skirmish unit is part of the goal, but it's not the main point.
Ultimately, it's about the points.
It's about the objective. You got to take the objective away. If these guys swing in and your opponent Armor of Contempts and you roll a little bad and they roll
a little good,
and
not by much. The margin's not.
No, it's like 15 attacks.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
It's like 15 attacks sitting on 3/0/1 sustained. The wound on 3s. It's actually, I think they live most of the time.
Yeah.
And then one dude lives, they auto pass morale, they hold their primary, and suddenly they take your expansion away. You're down 5, and now you're behind on the game. You can't let that happen. So as a skirmishing unit, these guys are not actually that great because you either need to put enough investment that you are sure their entire unit's going to go to sleep, and like 99 times out of 100, their unit has to go to sleep, or you're just risking giving up 5 points every time you try and commit these guys.
Yeah, and the other issue too is also because of the Curse of the Wolfen, you also can't use these guys as like little action monkeys.
Yeah, because they can't do action.
Unless they're next to a Space Wolf character.
Someone's holding their leash.
Yeah, someone's holding their leash. So I think these guys are going to end up down in C tier, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I just don't see a strong enough reason for them to compete harder than Wulfen with Thunderhammers.
Yeah, they just like don't do the same job.
And no 4-up Invuln's also like a big deal. They just die.
Yeah, I mean,
they're actually just dead.
That's the same job I'm talking about.
Yeah, right. Like
the Wulfen with Storm Shields are something you can't. They're not skirmishers. Like the Wulfen with Storm Shields just don't even pretend to be skirmishers. They don't have enough attack for that.
They're just they go on the push turn.
Yep,
right?
they go on the push turn, and your opponent is put with a dilemma of like deal with these cheap units that have a 4-up invul and toughness 6, and your opponent's like, I don't want to do that. It's like, well, okay, you're just gonna get hit by them a couple times, and that's bad. Whereas these guys having no real save means they're gonna die to random nonsense.
Yeah. Next up, we have Wolfguard Terminators.
Yes.
At the moment, I am pretty high on these guys. I think for their points cost, they're really quite efficient. So they're currently 170 for 5 of them.
4 wounds a piece, that's pretty tight. Actually.
Except for the Sergeant. The Sergeant, you're going to get the special weapon. So it's 19. It's 19 wounds, technically.
Yeah, but the break points mean that's usually not like an issue.
Yeah, that should be fine.
If your opponent hits you with 3 damage, you're chilling.
Yeah.
If your opponent hits you with 2 damage, it's the same.
Yeah, so 4-up invuln, -1 to wound if their strength is higher. Makes these guys pretty tough to shift. AOC on a Terminator unit is always good.
34 points a model, that's pretty good.
It's pretty competitive.
That's pretty damn good, honestly.
So the regular guys, the Storm Shields, will have 4 attacks at 5/2/2. So they have a good number of attacks. The other big reason is that they also hold hands with Logan, and you want to bring Logan. So you want to bring a unit of having a good bodyguard unit to also go with him is also great.
That unit for 280 is just value.
Notably, Terminators also move 6 in this book. So they're fast, they're not slow.
Haha, I have 7-inch moving Terminators. Get wrecked.
Me.
World leaders.
I'm really quite high. I think these guys with Logan are in every single Space Wolf list. I think at 170 is competing with Headtakers.
Favorably,
like its own drop.
too,
Yeah, favorably.
oftentimes.
Like stat. I just really big fan of this unit. I really want to put them in S tier. I think they're going to be in a ton of Space Wolf list.
So the only other character you can join these guys is Arjac, and that unit is significantly worse than the Logan one, just because it doesn't really have a reason to exist past stats, and that's not usually good enough, especially not in Marines, the Army of Synergy. So that one unit, though, at 280 is going to be very efficient.
I think even just a 5-man that you wrap it in would be just fine, even without Logan. Like 170 for that many wounds and like decent combat is actually really quite nice.
I mean, we'll have to take a look at the Space Wolves Grotmist detachment and see whether it leaves the bottom 10 detachments in the game.
I did genuinely look.
It's still bad, though,
It's
right?
still bad.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
It actually runs into some unfortunate issues with the codex that I can't remember exactly what it was, but there's some things that don't actually work.
It's
all the enhancements.
You can't join enhancements to the
can't do
unit.
the enhancements, yeah. So there's a bunch of enhancements that literally don't work now because there is no unnamed Terminator character to lead
Anymore.
the Wolfguard Terminators.
No, not anymore. That is rough because what I really like for these guys is to have the 6-inch heroic.
It would be so good.
It would be so good. You
good.
can't do it though. You just can't do it.
You just can't do it.
So they'll probably never fix that, but we'll see.
Next up, Fenrisian Wolves. I'm currently a pretty decent fan of these guys. To be honest with you,
cheap, right?
They're cheap. 40 points for 5 dudes. You can string them out to get them the OC. They also have a reactive move. D6 inches when everyone moves near them. They're beasts, so they can move through walls. For 40 points to have a little guy that can be strung out to do actions, I really like this unit, to be honest with you. Like they score area denial for you. They can locust for you. They can like contain and string out on sides.
Space Marines have a real issue that their cheapest unit is 70 points.
Yeah.
And it's only okay. Scouts are like fine. They used to be 55 points. They used to be absurd. At 70 points, Scouts are only okay. For that, you can almost get 2 units of Fenrisian Wolves. And Fenrisian Wolves do everything you need your cheap nonsense unit to do. They string out and they do area denial. They string out and they establish locus. They hold an objective. Your opponent has to do something about it, right? And they're at 40 points. So you can just get 3 of these for 120. You're doing all your actions without committing a real unit.
Yeah, super cheap. Big fan. So I am still going to end up putting them in B tier at the end of the day because not every Space Wolf list will need this.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. However, if it's like, oh man, my points are really awkward. If I just shift this around, I can just get a whole unit of Fenrisian Wolves. Great.
Yep.
I'll probably bring honestly at least 1 unit in most of my Space Wolf lists.
Yeah.
Just good.
Space Marines basically right now have to lean into doing their actions with reusable things.
Yeah.
So like a lot of the time you'll see people with their lone op lieutenant who, if your opponent wants to interact with it, They have to get within 12, so it's at least a trade, right? And it has a reactive move, so a flat 6, so it can save itself, which means that you can get multiple uses out of that guy.
Yep.
You have to do that when your cheapest unit is 70 points. And scouts will never defend themselves, right? If you have scouts on the center, they're dead if your opponent wants them dead. And that just is what it is. If your cheapest unit is 40 points, suddenly you don't have to look for reusable action monkeys, because you can just throw 40 points away to get 5 points on a secondary, and that is a glorious trade.
Just good.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Thunderwolf Cavalry.
Still in the book.
Still in the book. Survived.
Did not anticipate that. Also, these last 3 are just things I did not think were going to still be in the book.
V is a good glow up.
Yeah.
3 damage on the big weapon. The teeth and claws no longer get +1 damage on the charge. It's just the 2 damage weapon.
Yeah. I played a bunch of Thundercav before, and I will tell you, the main problem with Thundercav's damage output was 2 parts. 1, they were damage 2. That was an issue. Damage 2 on everything, which meant there's a lot of profiles that are just inefficient in 2, and the bigger one was the AP 1. They have solved both of those by making them AP 2 damage 3 on the charge. I'm going to be straight with you. I don't know what they were thinking here.
And they're cheap.
And they are, it's 100 for 3 and what, 220 for
And move 12
6?
down.
And move 12?
Yeah, 3 for 100 and 220 for 6.
I don't know what they were thinking here.
I love 2.
Straight up.
I love 2 uses for these. 3-mans are excellent at just going to kill something on an objective, be 12 wounds with a 4-pin while at T6 on it.
Yeah, in the Gladius, those things are nuts.
Super annoying.
Very efficient, very fast.
Or you take 6 of them and you're just like, die, and here's 24 wins.
Yeah, so you can no longer join a single character to them. There's no Thunderwolf characters
at all.
anywhere, nowhere. And that means you can't make a character get +1 damage from his unit, which means the little 3-man plus a character thing that I occasionally flirted with, but didn't often because a 4-man unit, this is very unwieldy. That is gone. What instead we have is, you can take 18 Thundercav for 660 points in Stormlands.
Might be too cheap.
That was never a problem before. The Thundercav were never an issue. They were never...
Never a problem.
No, never a problem. Now, they don't have a couple of things that made them a problem in the past. They don't have a Blood Surge. And not having a Blood Surge means it's a lot easier to deal with them, but they're also only 660 points, and they are now AP2 damage 3, which means that you can't... Before, if you had Armor of Contempt and a 2-up, you could just wall that entire army in combat a decent amount of the time. You can't do that now. Sorry. I don't know what they were thinking. I really just don't know what they were thinking, making these things AP2 damage 3 and cheap.
I think the datasheet is fine at the correct points cost. We're just too cheap right now.
They're just too cheap.
Right. Like, I think ultimately, once they get the right points cost on this unit, it'll be perfectly acceptable.
Yeah.
Just too cheap right now.
They came down, they gained 2 points of move, 1 point of AP, and a point of damage on the smash. And the claws, never did anything. They just never did anything.
Yeah, getting the extra damage on the relevant profile, that's what matters.
The AP is the huge part.
Yeah, and then these are great in Stormlands. Even in Saga of the Beast Slayer, one of the interesting Space Wolf detachments, they get a reactive move in this. They can move over models in it. Lethals also makes them hit quite a bit harder. These are just straight Esther units to me.
Easy. I think it's the best unit in the book, personally. I mean, so they got better in a number of ways that are incredibly relevant to their stat line. Like, if you had to tell me, what are the single biggest things you could change on the data sheet, I would say movement, AP, and damage on their weapons. And they got +1 to all of those, and then they went down 20 points. They were a menace before. They were an issue for game balance before.
Well, surely nothing will go wrong this time.
What are we doing?
Nothing will go wrong.
I don't know. You can't join characters to them, so maybe that will make it easier to deal with. Who knows?
These next 2 are pretty easy.
The
Venerable Dreadnought has an aura of +1 advance, +1 charge. I do generically like that as an aura.
Sure.
Too expensive. It's just bad.
How many points is it?
Too much.
Okay. And what about the Wulfen Dreadnought?
It does nothing.
Okay. And what's its cost?
Too much.
Yeah, that checks out, actually. It's actually fine that you can't tell the difference between these.
But you can. You one's got a little Murderfang.
Zoom way in.
Zoom way in.
Yeah.
And it's all going to be okay.
Unfortunately, the models just look identical. There's actually nothing for us to do about that.
So I think the one thing I'm going to shift around here is I think I am going to move the Terminators down to A. I think that's a little more inappropriate. I think they are still highly competitive, but when I look at the rest of the S tier units, I'm just like, oh man, these just slam. And then the Terminators are just very, very good.
I think they carry Logan very well, and that unit as a combined unit is great. I think it's really good as a combined unit, but it has to be that combined unit. And Logan feels like he's pulling most of the weight. And
I don't think anyone else shifts around too much. I think everything else looks pretty happy.
No, this all looks pretty decent. I think this properly represents that I think the characters are what makes the units good, not the vice versa.
Agreed. The reasons you play Space Wolves is because the characters, less so for the Datasheets themselves.
Yeah, and you have a couple of combos, right? You have Wolf Priest and Battle Leader with Headtakers. You have Logan with Terminators. And those are your combos. Yeah. You take them. And then you can take, Iron Priest with vehicles, which I think is actually quite efficient if you pick the right vehicles. Yep. Which is a cool way to do buffs. On a Reaper, he's useless. But on a, Predator Annihilator, he's great.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then you have like your variety of toughness 6 4-up invuln wall that you can take that is just probably too cheap.
Way too cheap.
I mean, how many? It's like 30 of those guys plus 18 Thundercav is like 1,200 points. Then you just include guns behind
closer
it.
to 1,300. It's like 1,270-ish or something like that, if I remember right. Either way, it's like ridiculously cheap at the moment.
It is ridiculously cheap. And then you take, Logan plus his fellas, and you take Bjorn, and you're sitting at like 1,700. And then you take, some... Yeah, you don't even need a skirmish at that point.
No.
And then you just take like 5.
You're not playing a real game of Warhammer once you commit to that list. You're playing one of us is coming out of this alive, and we're going to find out who it's going to be, right? Like
2 of us walk into a room, 1 of us leaves.
Yeah, 1 of us is going to leave. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed this video. I definitely think I loved talking about all the actual Space Wolf combos now that we've gotten some time with them. They've really shaken out into like a really cool space. I think they're very thematic, very interesting. What have your thoughts been so far?
I think they're cool, and they're designed differently. They're a very datasheet first sort of army.
Yes.
They feel a little bit reminiscent of Blood Angels in that Blood Angels are mostly defined by their characters. Now, the one thing that Space Wolves don't have is a really good detachment that is Space Wolf specific.
Yeah, which is quite sad.
Blood Angels have that. But I do think Space Wolf units are comparable to Blood Angel units, right? Yeah. I think they're very comparable in terms of power level. So I'm excited to see what you do with this. I will say
I'm deep in the labs.
Deep in the labs. Right, like I think Sanguinary Guard and Jump Pack Death Company are roughly equivalent in power level to Wulfen and Thundercav, maybe a little bit worse, but I think our characters are a little bit more applicable. I don't know, it feels very similar. I think it's a cool design, but they're similar in like different ways.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. Space Wolves are similar to other Marines, just in different ways, and they do it in a unique way, which is thematic and generally fitting to Space Wolves. So I end up the identity ends up being pretty interesting. I'm very happy with it. So I'm just gonna keep playing.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch you on your Marines journey here. And it's good to have somebody who's like really excited for Space Wolves.
I'm so excited for it.
And can really, carry their Space Wolves community who has been maybe, looking for some love recently.
So if you want to check out some more Space Wolf content, of course, you can check out the War Room at the warroom.vhx.tv. Start the 3-day free trial. I have some Space Wolf content in there right now, right? I have a list breakdown as well as I believe 2 games now at this point.
Yes, and more to come.
Certainly more to come. I am desperately waiting for the rest of the ranged release and the official codex so I can go out into the wild and play this army. But go check it out, and we will see you next time.
All right. Bye-bye.